questions or make comments using the chat box or the Q&A icon located at the bottom of the e-platform. I'm sorry, we don't have a demo here, but you will see it on your screen for those of you online. So, shareholder questions and or comments will be addressed during the Q&A section of the AGM, and the chairman will prompt you accordingly. Shareholders are asked to submit or ask up to 2 questions, which I'd already indicated, and then we will, subject to constraints of time, we will allow as many other questions as you may have, but each person will only be allowed 2 at the outset. So for record-keeping purposes, I'd like every shareholder who wishes to speak to address the chairman and identify yourself by your full name before you proceed with your question. So just for clarity, we need it for record keeping. So we need to know who is speaking. If you are holding a proxy for another shareholder, please state the name of that shareholder. And all questions should be addressed, as I indicated, to the chair, who will determine the order in which the responses will be made. Shareholders who wish to be seen on camera will be visible to the other shareholders on turning on their cameras. And all shareholders who wish to ask questions are being asked to turn on their cameras before speaking. And again, that's optional. Okay, so the voting will really be facilitated on the platform for itinerary. That's our IT support team. And during the AGM, each resolution will be put to the meeting, and the shareholders will be given 60 seconds to cast their vote in respect of the resolution. And once it has been moved and seconded, then the shareholders representing the required quorum for the AGM who are present in the room in which the proceedings are being conducted. It's a little long, but bear with me. I've been given instructions, and I take instructions. So the instructions for voting online, you'll see a pop-up modal window on your screen. Shareholders online, follow me. Click Vote Now on the right of your screen at the appropriate time, and you select the for or against options. Then you select Submit Vote at the bottom of the pop-up. You'll be asked to confirm your vote. Then you select Yes if you are certain. Select No if you want to change your vote. And if you have a question, again, just remember to send it through the chat, and we will try to address it if you have a problem with the voting. So thank you all, and I'll now turn over to the chairman.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. Resolution number 1, the financial report. On to the first item on the agenda. The audited financial statements and reports which were contained in the company's annual report for the year ended 31st December 2023 are now before you. May I have a motion that the director's report be taken as read? May I have a proposer? Anthony Barnes. A seconder. Give them a mic. David Janice. I now put the resolution to the meeting. Those in favor? Raise your hands. Those in favor? Any against? The ayes have it. I declare the motion carried. We now invite a representative from McKinley and Associates to read the report of the independent auditors. The key audit matters for the year 2023 are highlighted in the financial statements, starting on page 45 of the annual report. Lucine Morrison, representing McKinley and Associates. Welcome, Ms. Morrison.
Good afternoon, board members, ladies and gentlemen. Can I hear? Okay. Can you hear me? Yes? Okay. So the members of Regency Petroleum Company Limited, the Independent Auditor's Report. Report on the audit of the financial statements. Our opinion. In our opinion, the financial statements give a true and fair view of the financial position of Regency Petroleum Company Limited as at 31st December 2023 and of its financial performance and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with International Financial Reporting Standards, IFRS, and the Jamaican Companies Act. What we have audited. The company's financial statements comprise the statement of financial position as at 31st December 2023, the statement of comprehensive income for the year then ended, the statement of cash flows for the year then ended, the statement of changes in equity for the year then ended, the notes to the financial statements, which include a summary of significant accounting policies. Our basis for opinion. We conducted our audit in accordance with international standards on auditing, the IAS. Our responsibilities under these standards are further described in the auditor's responsibilities for the audit of the financial statement section of our report. We believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. We are independent of the company in accordance with the International Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants, including international standards issued by the International Ethics Standards Board for Accountants, the IESBA Code. We have fulfilled our other ethical responsibilities in accordance with the IESBA Code, or audit scope. As part of designing our audit, we determined materiality and assessed the risks of material misstatements in the financial statements. In particular, we considered where management made subjective judgments. For example, in respect of significant accounting estimates that involved making assumptions and considering future events that are inherently uncertain. As in all of our audits, we also addressed the risk of management override of internal controls, including, among other matters, consideration of whether there was evidence of bias that represented a risk of material misstatement due to fraud or error. To the members of Regency Petroleum Company Limited, key audit matters. Key audit matters are those matters that, in our professional judgment, were of most significance in our audit of the financial statements. Key audit matters are selected from the matters communicated with the audit committee members, those charged with governance, but are not intended to represent all matters that were discussed with them. These matters are addressed in the context of our audit of the financial statements as a whole and informing our opinion thereon. We do not provide a separate opinion on these matters. During our work, we encountered no key audit matters that required disclosure. Responsibilities of management and the board of directors for the financial statements. Management is responsible for the preparation of these financial statements that give a true and fair view in accordance with IFRS, and for such internal controls as management determines is necessary to enable the preparation of financial statements that are free from material misstatements, whether due to fraud or error. In preparing the financial statements, management is responsible for assessing the company's ability to continue as a going concern, disclosing, as applicable, matters relating to going concern and using the going concern basis of accounting, unless management either intends to liquidate the company or cease operations or has no realistic alternative but to do so. The board of directors is responsible for overseeing the company's financial reporting process. The auditor's responsibility for the audit of the financial statements. The objectives of our audit are to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatements, whether due to fraud or error, and to issue an auditor's report that includes our opinion. Reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, but is not a guarantee that an audit conducted in accordance with international standards on auditing will always detect a material misstatement when it exists. Misstatements can arise from fraud or error and are considered material if individually or in the aggregate they could reasonably be expected to influence the economic decisions of users taken on the basis of these financial statements. As part of an audit in accordance with IASAs, we exercise professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism throughout the audit. We also identify and assess the risks of material misstatement of the financial statements, whether due to fraud or error, design and perform audit procedures responsive to those risks, and obtain audit evidence that is sufficient to provide a basis for our opinion. The risk of not detecting a material misstatement resulting from fraud is higher than for one resulting from error, as fraud may involve collusion, forgery, intentional omissions, misrepresentations, or the override of internal control. Obtaining an understanding of internal control relevant to the audit to design audit procedures that are appropriate in the circumstances, but not to express an opinion on the effectiveness of the entity's internal control. Evaluate the appropriateness of accounting policies used and the reasonableness of accounting estimates and related disclosures made by management. To evaluate the overall presentation, structure, and content of the financial statements, including the disclosures, and whether the financial statements represent the underlying transactions and events in a manner that achieves a fair presentation. We are not responsible for the direction, supervision, and performance of the company. We remain solely responsible for our audit opinion. To conclude on the appropriateness of management's use of the going concern basis of accounting, and based on the audit evidence obtained, whether a material uncertainty exists related to events or conditions that may cast significant doubt on the company's ability to continue as a going concern. If we conclude that a material uncertainty exists, we are required to draw attention in our auditor's report to the related disclosures in the financial statements, or if such disclosures are inadequate, to modify our opinion. Our conclusions are based on the audit evidence obtained up to the date of our auditor's report. However, future events or conditions may cause the company to cease to continue as a going concern. We communicate with the board of directors of the company regarding, among other matters, the planned scope and timing of the audit and significant audit findings, including any significant deficiencies in internal control that we identify during our audit. We also provide the board of directors with a statement that we have complied with relevant ethical requirements regarding independence, and to communicate with them all relationships and other matters that may reasonably be thought to bear on our independence, and where applicable, related safeguards. From the matters communicated with those charged with governance, we determined those matters that were of most significance in the audit of the financial statements of the current period and are, therefore, the key audit matters. We describe these matters in our auditor's report, unless law or regulation precludes public disclosures about the matters, or when, in extremely rare circumstances, we determine that a matter should not be communicated in our report because the adverse consequences of doing so would reasonably be expected to outweigh the public interest benefits of such communication. Other information. Management is responsible for the other information. The other information comprises the annual report, inclusive of the directors, chairman of the board, and the chief executive officer reports, but does not include the financial statements and the auditor's report thereon. The annual report is expected to be made available to us after the date of this auditor's report. Our opinion on the financial statements does not cover the other information, and we do not express any form of assurance thereon. In connection with our audit of the financial statements, our responsibility is to read the other information identified above when it becomes available, and in doing so, consider whether the other information is materially inconsistent with the financial statements or our knowledge obtained in the audit, or otherwise appear to be materially misstated. Report on other legal and regulatory requirements. As required by the Jamaican Companies Act, we have obtained all the information and explanations which, to the best of our knowledge and belief, were necessary for our audit. In our opinion, proper accounting records have been kept so far as appears from our examination of those records, and the accompanying financial statements are in agreement therewith and give the information required by the Jamaican Companies Act in the manner so required. The engagement partner on the audit resulting in this independent auditor's report is Wilfred McKinley.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Morrison. The audited accounts for the year ended December 31st, 2023, and the report of the directors and auditors were circulated and are now before the meeting for discussion. Before the resolution is put to the meeting, however, I would like to invite the CEO, Mr. Andrew Williams, to address you and to highlight you on the company's performance over the period and the strategies going forward. Mr. Williams.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank everyone. Can you hear me now? I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time out to be here with us today, and also here and online. For Regency's performance over the last year, 2023. Right. So, with regards to our performance for 2023, again, we had an exciting year and a successful year for the company. Exciting and successful in that it was our first year after listing on the stock exchange, and we fulfilled our promises to our shareholders and the general public and the people of Jamaica. We had challenges throughout the year, specifically with regards to our construction processes. I'm going to be very frank with you, we had estimated for our service stations to be opened, which we in the manner which, like at first quarter of the year, and we had delays in that. However, we were successful and we completed our main event, our main activity for last year, which will be the opening of our Paradise service station. Now, with regards to automotive fuels. So we had our service station completed for the fourth quarter of last year. Now, with regards to our LPG, our cooking gas, so let me just recap a bit. Regency Petroleum, as we all would know or should know, that we are a marketing company. So we distribute bulk petroleum and automotive fuels. Bulk petroleum as in bulk LPG, and automotive fuels, 90, 87, low sulfur, all those automotive fuels, along with cooking gas, which we refer to as LPG, propane, butane. Now, so the significant event for last year for the automotive fuel will have been the opening of the Paradise service station. For the LPG, we had a franchise agreement in place with our company Just Gas to distribute bulk petroleum for Regency, or under the Regency brand, in the corporate area. That's Spanish Town, St. Catherine and Kingston, which was quite successful again, because that had accounted for an increase in our bulk LPG sales, just that single venture of our franchise agreement. So we had an increase we had seen an increase in our bulk petroleum, LPG. Now, in terms of, so for last year, it is very significant to note, which I mentioned in previous interviews and so forth. Our revenue source for 2023 did not change over the last 3 years up until August of last year. Let me repeat that. Our revenue source, or our infrastructure that we had in place, and where the revenue source for Regency over the last 3 years did not change. We expected that to change in the first quarter with the opening of the service station, what we anticipated in the first quarter of last year, which didn't happen. So we had that same revenue source going on for the last 3 years, coming up until August. However, in saying so, we experienced increase in revenues from our revenue source being the same. Our revenues organically grew over that period of the first 2 quarters of last year. It's very significant for the company. Now, as of the opening in August, so with the Just Gas agreement for the LPG, and as of the opening in August, we would have seen increases in those revenues, which accounted for that 30-odd%, I think it's 36% increase in revenue generally for that year. We had some additional expenses being listed on the stock exchange, additional administrative costs, etc. And just being listed, there are additional costs being a listed company, which our revenue source, as I mentioned, for the past 3 years, had to sustain these expenses, additional expenses. However, we had a successful year. We have seen increases in revenues, and the company in general have been established. I mean, we are no more established across the island. We stuck to our obligations socially, where we have set and fixed obligations for socially within our community, especially within our community, and otherwise and across the island. But primarily in our communities, we have stuck to our obligations, and we have done a number of donations over the past year, regardless of whatever additional expenses we had. We stuck to our obligations. And I can't go further into that. Our obligations primarily we are focused towards youth and the churches. So we focus a lot on like the primary schools and youth in the communities, along with churches and outreach programs. You know, we see that as very important to our company. So we're not just about profit making. Profit making is our primary, I mean, it's very important. But we also, as I always say, we also look to our development of socially and economically of our community and our country in general. We are a Jamaican-owned company, as I always say, and we stick by that, you know, and we try to ensure that our country benefits also, the people in our community benefit also. In recapping last year, we have the Paradise service station open. The Negril service station wasn't completed in that financial year. However, it has now been completed and in operation since January of this year. So we have, since January of this year, we have had two service stations, full service stations in operation. We started our Kingston location for the automotive fuels construction in last year, August, under a 12-month agreement, basically. Sorry, a 12-month agreement, right, a 1-year agreement. So we anticipated the completion of that project by now. We are a little bit behind, but we're still within our project timeline in terms of our constructions agreements. So we're looking forward to that in the coming year. So with regards to our outlook for this year, we're looking forward to we already have 2 full service stations in operation. We're looking forward to have a 3rd. So I would say for the first 2 quarters of this year, and this is in reference to our company's outlook now, with regards to for the first 2 quarters of this year, we will definitely experience revenues from these 2 service stations and a 3rd full service station by the 3rd to 4th quarter of this year. So we have that to look forward to. And for the LPG, we will be growing organically for the LPG. We will be growing both retail, which is the household cylinders, the 25 pounds and the 100 pounds, and we'll be growing also with the bulk petroleum. As the company ages, where we've been born, we are now at a youth stage. As we age, we gradually grow, you know, in all aspects. And we, as my chairman always say, we aim to be a household name in Jamaica for petroleum. You talk about cooking gas or automotive fuel, and we are on our way there. We are definitely on our way there. So we'll grow, and very importantly, again, with the help of God, who has carried us thus far, we look forward to him and look to him for the continued growth of Regency Petroleum. In closing, I will just introduce our management team. Can stand up. Mr. O'Neill Smith is our retail sales executive coordinator. Mrs. Letitia Porter, our operations manager. Mr. Wazim Williams, our internal accountant and executive coordinator. Mr. Jerry Grant, which everybody should know, our financial controller. Hours late nights where we're going through financials and doing assessments and evaluations, you know. And our plant manager for the LPG, Mr. David Jackson. So you see, we have our management team in place, and as we grow, we will continue to grow with our management team and otherwise. Thanks again, and I'm looking forward to 2024.
Thank you very much, Mr. CEO. Just to say that it's obvious that RPL is in good hands. I now invite the shareholders to raise any questions or comments on the reports or the businesses of the company. We ask you to remember the protocols outlined by the secretary, which is you have to put up your hand, you have to be identified, you have to state your name. Shareholders online, please select the Q&A icon at the bottom of the screen and then type your comment or question in the text box. The floor is now open to question, and we are also taking questions online. Andrew.
Is what all of us are thinking of. Here it is at the end of the...
Name.
That's all right. The name's Arthur Ellison. It's Arthur Ellison. And I'd just like to remark on the fact that at the end of the period of this financial summary, the stock price was $2.42 a share. $2.42. In an atmosphere where the gas price has been pretty much rising, not consistently but rising, should we reasonably expect that the stock price might have remained somewhere about where it is now, or maybe even risen, but not fallen to the low point that it is today? Yeah? Obviously, it also would have been important if we got more dividends considered in our earnings of all of the expansion that the business provided.
All right,
I'm sure you can explain.
That's a two-point question. So let me address the first point. With regards to the stock price, I don't know if I'm eligible to comment on that. You know, because that's basically the stock market and how it operates and the general operation in terms of where the market is now and what drives the market really. So it is my opinion that the stock market currently, the JSE currently, it's on a downward trend overall, and I can say that Regency Petroleum is probably one of the very few, if any at all, who have maintained a 100% increase from the inception, from the IPO to current stage. Many other companies have not maintained that 100%, which shows confidence within our investors. A lot of confidence, because we actually maintain over 100% of our share price from inception, from IPO to current, or 18 months, right? So with regards to dividends, carefully note, we all are looking forward to dividends from Regency. However, at the stage of where we are now, we have just completed our first service station, which have been completed in the first quarter last year, in August. And we are in a construction or a growth phase currently. So we are looking to complete these other two. Well, the second one was completed in January, and the third one should be completed in the next quarter. So what we're looking forward to is to have these 3 service stations completed. No construction in place and we can experience 2 quarters of revenues from these 2 service stations to determine payout of dividend. So because currently, remember, we just had operated for 1 quarter since the service station has been opened, the new one. So we're looking forward to have these 3 open, experience these revenues, and then we see what we can see what dividends can be paid out from that. But definitely, we have a strict dividend policy where dividends, when the company is at that stage, we will look to pay out dividends for sure.
I'm sure you're probably glad to hear me encourage you to encourage our stockholders to look forward to those dividends to which you refer. At the same time, I'm also looking forward to seeing the value of the stock rise, which the dividends would encourage, as
Yes.
well as the other plans that
Definitely.
you've been executing.
Definitely agree.
Good to hear you
Definitely agree.
make
Thank
your
you.
promise, Mr.
Thank you.
Williams.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Even
Daniel Shaw, investor.
what's your name again?
Daniel Shaw,
Shaw.
1E1L, Daniel. As in the Bible, King Daniel.
Can't hear him so good.
Okay.
Alright,
Go ahead, Sean.
So on the GAC website, it says that RPL has advised that it has privately placed by way of an exempt distribution US 1.4 million in secured notes due 2025, arranged by GK Capital Management Limited. The US fixed rate secured notes will be issued in 2 tranches. Tranche A amounting to US 600,000, issued as of June 30, 2023. And tranche B, you're not hearing me well?
Not hearing you so clearly.
And tranche B, that's better? And
Right, tranche B, right,
amounting to US 800,000, expected to be drawn down on or before September the 9th, 2023.
Right.
Now, if we go on page 22 of the annual report, it speaks about this, and it says it's an 8.5% interest rate, which is due September the 2025. Now, if you go on page 34 of the annual report, you see that GK Investments Limited is actually your second majority shareholder. Now, my question is, what are the implications of this should you not be able to pay the loan by September 2025?
Okay, Jerry. Let me see if I understand the question correctly. You're asking what are the implications if the company is not able to
pay the loan by September 2025. The
2025.
GK Capital, GK Investments, your second majority
you-
shareholder.
you-
I hope I get you correctly. Did you say GK is the majority shareholder? Oh, second majority. Yeah. Okay, the company is very profitable. The company is very have a high cash resources, and I see no problem in the company paying back debt. I don't see
Oh,
the problem.
all right. Okay, remember the bond was taken for the service station construction which has not been operated as yet. However, based on our current cash flow, we see where our projections will be able to carry a full payment currently with these 2 service stations being opened. All right.
Furthermore, the funds are invested.
So when we have the 3rd service station, we don't see an issue where there should be an issue to pay off the bond prior to 2025. The answer it does.
All right, for the annual report on page 46, under non-current assets, you have the deferred expenditure amounting to 64,540,777. Now, on page 60, note 17, you speak about this. It says it's a deposit on Spanish Town Road construction. This represents a loan given to the builder, owner of the property located on Spanish Town, Kingston, to construct a gas station which RGPL will lease. Upon completion, the monthly lease liability fee will be set off against the receivable until the balance is liquidated. My question is, why is this a non-current asset? RPL does not own the land. Construction has not been finished. And since construction has not been finished, it's unable to be leased. So why is it a non-current asset? And ultimately, it even says it's a loan here for note 17.
Right, so, no, what's the question?
Why is it a non-current asset? Why is the deferred expenditure under non-current assets when the note says that it's a loan for construction that has not yet been completed? The land is not owned by RPL, and since construction has not been completed, it cannot be leased.
The funds to construct a gas station are advanced by RPL. It's a long term because it will be offset against a lease for 20-25 years. So those funds are, that receivable is a long-term receivable. Okay?
That's it. You said 2, right? So that's it.
Yeah, man, thank you for the question. What?
Any other questions? Have any questions online, Madam Secretary? Any other questions or comments? Okay. Thank you. Can sit down. There be no further questions. I would like to put the vote for the resolution for the adoption of the audited accounts for the year ended December 31st, 2023, and the reports of the directors and auditors thereupon before the meeting. Resolution that the audited accounts and the reports of the directors and auditors for the year ended December 31st, 2023 be hereby adopted. Do I have a proposer? Is there a seconder? Thank you very much. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. I declare the motion carried. We now move on to the second item of business, and this will be presented by our secretary.
Okay, good. Thank you, Chair. Okay. Under this item, we will be putting to the meeting the re-election of 2 of our directors, one being the chairman, hence I have to take, we observe governance, so I will be the person putting the matter to the meeting. Okay, so under the articles, well, first of all, the summary of each of the directors has been reported on pages 7 and 9 of the annual report. Under the articles of the company's amended articles of incorporation, at the annual general meeting following the first meeting, at least a third of the directors must step down, or what we call retire, and then they are eligible for re-election if they say so. Both directors, Andrew Cocking and the chairman, have indicated their willingness to continue in office, and therefore I'd like to put the resolution for the reappointment of these two gentlemen, but I'll do them separately. Resolution 2A, that Director Andrew Cocking, retiring by rotation and being eligible for reappointment, be and is hereby re-elected a director of the company. May I have a proposer? Name, please, sir. May I have a seconder? Name? Okay. I now put the resolution to the meeting. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Thank you. Second resolution, that Director Andre Foote, retiring by rotation and being eligible for reappointment, be and is hereby re-elected a director of the company. May I have a proposer? Mr. Ellison, thank you. May I have a seconder? I didn't get your name. Valerie Christie. Thank you, Ms. Christie. I now put the resolution to the meeting. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it, and I declare the motion carried. I'll now hand over to the chairman.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary, and thank you all very much for your vote of confidence in myself and Director Cocking. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is to fix the remuneration of the directors. Resolution 3. That the amount included in the audited accounts of the company for the year ended December 31st, 2023, as remuneration for their services as directors, be and is hereby approved. I now invite a shareholder to propose. And may I have a proposal? Thank you. Seconder. I now put the resolution to the meeting. Those in favor? Any against? We're voting online too. Okay, Madam Secretary, is that okay? The voting online. The ayes have it. I declare the motion carried. The next item on the agenda is to appoint the auditors and authorize the directors to fix the remuneration of the auditors. I now move to the next item. Our auditors, McKinley and Associates, chartered accountants, have expressed their willingness to continue in office and will do so with the provision of the Companies Act. The meeting is being asked to authorize the directors to fix the remuneration of the auditors. That McKinley and Associates Chartered Accountants, having agreed to continue in office as auditors, be and hereby appointed auditors for the company to hold office until the conclusion of the next annual general meeting as a remuneration to be fixed by the directors of the company. I now invite a shareholder to propose the resolution. May I have a proposer? Thank you. And a seconder. Those in favor? Eh, That's correct. That's correct.
They might have to override the auditors. I just like to be assured, and I'm sure our fellow stockholders might not mind hearing you say that not only are you completely satisfied, but you're satisfied with the benefit of the advice that your auditors have provided. And we look forward to not only the advice being valuable in the future, but providing those dividends that you're promising us as the time moves on.
I don't think that is up to the auditors, but we are more than satisfied with the service that the auditors are providing us, and that is why we are putting them forward for you to agree to them. So thank you very much. Those in favor? Thank you. Any against? The ayes have it. I declare the motion carried. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the formal business of this meeting. And I thank you for your interest and support. Once again, let me pledge as chairman, on behalf of the directors and the CEO, our commitment to you as shareholders to ensure that this company grows with integrity and with profit. So someday soon, we will start paying dividends. So just be patient, one day at a time, all right? I now invite a shareholder to propose a resolution for the termination of this meeting. Thank you very much. May I have a second? The ayes have it, and I declare the motion carried and declare the second annual general meeting of the Regency Petroleum Company Limited terminated. Once again, thank you for your interest and participation. Keep in touch with us, and we look forward to your continued support. Thank you.